Hi there, welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We've just started in court, formally. It'll be curious to see where the trial's going to go from here, because this is one instance where, you know, well, I mean, there's clearly one person in particular is pretty sus, but, well, we don't have the full story yet, so I guess we're going to get some more information as time goes on. But anyway, let's get into it. We will resume the public hearing of Albert Harebrain, here present, who stands accused of murder. Are the counsel for the prosecution and defense ready to proceed? Oh yeah, I forgot. I didn't really, well, he kind of slipped my mind. Our masked boy, who may or may not be Kazuma, maybe, presumably.
The prosecution is ready, my lord.
The defense is ready, my lord. Yeah, it's gonna be, I know it's gonna be a hard day for us, but, we can make it work, Ryunosuke. As promised, Lord Van Zykes has his apprentice with him. His apprentice with memory loss. Oh, hi, Sasato. You were right next to me this whole time, as I should have expected.
If I may, Lord Van Zykes. Yes, my lord.
There appears to be someone standing at your side. Jeez, Judge, you're a regular Sherlock Holmes, aren't you?
Ah, yes. My apprentice and assistant.
I mean, to be fair, if the defense gets to have an assistant in all these games, you know, why can't the prosecution have a little guy helping them out, you know? I mean, fair is fair.
The prosecution believes today's proceedings will see the complexity of this case rise considerably.
Okay, that's a little extra, don't you think? Like, you can't even open your own bottles now? You need someone else to do it for you? Okay, that was a pretty, I will say, pretty smooth animation. Duo animation to be exact, but, you know.
I therefore instructed my assistant to attend to ensure the smooth running of the trial.
And the smooth running of liquid refreshments by the look of it. Yeah, I guess he's gotten extra lazy. The way he holds himself, the way he moves, it couldn't be anyone else. But he's still suffering from amnesia, so there's really nothing we can do at the moment. Okay, so I guess it is Kazuma. Oh, I know, but... oh, this is so very hard. It would appear the prosecution has done a fine job in responding to the demands that the court made yesterday. I understand you have successfully secured the engineer who disappeared from the scene on the day in question. Okay, I mean, yeah, he did, even though we did like 80% of the work. Just saying.
Yes, my lord. I intend to call him as a witness shortly.
Very good, very good. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we've been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this courtroom today. Yeah, apparently at random. Are you ready and willing to proceed? Of course, my lord. I'm sure we all understand the importance of doing our civic duty. I don't even really remember the voices I gave these people. It's been a little while. Oh, I do so despise deception and deceit. I find it so very wearing. Who the fuck likes deception and deceit? Like, unless you're literally like a spy or whatever, I don't see who's like, oh yeah, I love being deceived. It rocks. To take a man's life with a conjuring trick, it is against the magician's code, not to mention the law. Any fake scientist should feel the wrath of God, if you ask me. We had to listen to what's said on both sides of the fence and, then settle on one. That's it, isn't it? God, you barely have done anything this whole time, little girl. Besides to eat your fucking corn.
Oh, it wasn't like this in my day. Wasn't like this at all.
Well, if all right parties are ready to proceed, You may begin, Lord Van Dykes.
Before I do, my lord, there is a report I must read to the court.
And you need someone to present your scrolls as well.
Yesterday, at the Great Exhibition grounds, the evidence of primary importance in this case, the super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine, which was installed on the experimentation stage, was deliberately destroyed in an explosion affected by an unknown person or persons.
Oh yeah, it did get kind of blown the fuck up, didn't it? Even though I think we kind of know who that was responsible for that.
It was...
What? An explosion? This is an outrage! Yes, yes. I heard this grave news yesterday. Scotland Yard submitted a report to my office in the evening. I read that the machine was blasted to smithers, and the wreckage reduced to ashes in the flames.
I have here a photographic print of the scene, taken in the wake of the explosion. It shows what little remains of the machine.
Well, yeah, not a whole lot. Although we can see that there's like a big hole where the bird cage is supposed to be, which kind of gives credence to what we said yesterday. Or, well, you know, yesterday, the last day of the trial, you know? Yes, terrible business. Ugh. He did it to destroy the evidence, did he? That Enoch Trevor. The court will take this print as evidence, counsel. The metal floor of the stage has been blown open. Yeah, that's true.
Late yesterday afternoon, the protection afforded to the machine by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act was revoked. However, before a thorough investigation could begin, the invention was obliterated from existence. As such, this will become a very different trial.
Gah. Different how? Hey, what happened to your cape? I didn't see you throw it away this time.
As it stands now, with no evidence on which to draw meaningful conclusions, the authenticity of the kinesis machine will remain forever in obscurity.
Indeed. A most important state of affairs. Bro, we got... What do you mean it'll be forever in obscurity? We got Enoch on the stand, don't we? We can just ask him if it was fake or not. He can tell us, can't we?
However, one thing remains clear. The victim's death was a result of the actions of the accused. Of that we can be certain. For it was the accused himself who was operating the machine, and who ultimately caused its loss of control.
Objection.
I'm sorry, what? As Lord Van Dykes rightly says, this is a very different trial now. Oh shit, he agrees with me. The accused accepts responsibility for his part in the events that transpired. He acknowledges that Mr. Assman died as a result of the accident caused by his machine's malfunction. However, unbeknownst to the professor, he was being deliberately deceived by a pair of very clever fraudsters. Names, counsel, if you please. But who the fuck do you think? The engineer, Mr. Enoch Trevor, and the victim himself, Mr. Odie Assman. I mean, why were we gonna bring Enoch onto the stand if we weren't suspecting him of obvious fucking deceit? Come on, Van Dykes, keep up, pal. So what exactly were these two men up to behind the defendant's back? The defense intends to expose that information, thus establishing the unequivocal innocence of the defendant. Yeah, you tell him, Renosuke. Thank you, counsel. The positions of the prosecution and defense have been clearly stated. Lord Van Dykes, summon your first witness, please.
At once, my lord. The prosecution calls the engineer, Mr. Enoch Trevor, to the stand.
Alright, we're getting right into it.
State your name and occupation for the court.
Name, Enoch Drebber. Occupation, hard to pin down, I would say. What do you mean? See that black monocle? Yes. What do I feel as though I've seen it somewhere before? Oh, you too? I had exactly the same feeling myself. Also, is that like a glove? Or is that just like your whole hand is just like a prosthetic? Frankly, I'm curious.
Your file indicates that you are currently being prosecuted in connection with another case. The theft of a waxwork model, is it? A most extraordinary sounding business.
But that has no bearing on this trial, I assure you. Cleave it from your mind.
You're familiar with the public experiment carried out at the Great Exhibition some days ago. The accused super high voltage instantaneous kinesis demonstration.
I always say when it say super high voltage instantaneous kinesis every time. That's kind of a mouthful to say after a while. Yes, you could say that. I am aware of it. There was a terrible accident, wasn't there? Bro, what do you mean terrible accident? You were involved in it. You built the fucking thing. We already established that.
It was you, Mr. Drebber, who constructed the vast machine used in the experiment. Or so our investigations indicate. Can you confirm your involvement?
Yes, I constructed it in precise accordance with the blueprints. But that's all.
Yeah, and the court will be very interested to hear your thoughts about the machine, I'm sure.
I do like his little dance moves and such. An amazing device, if you ask me. The pinnacle of modern science, making instantaneous kinesis a reality at last. What? Good gracious. Do you mean to say that the experiment was bona fide? Is that your belief, sir? Yes, that is very much my belief. Such a waste that it blew up.
Objection!
You're the one who blew it up, though, you. But we've already established the machine was nothing more than a prop for an elaborate conjuring trick.
Objection!
You've established nothing of the sort. All that was shown during yesterday's proceedings is that the same outcome could have been produced by means of stage trickery. The defense merely proposed a method and has demonstrated its feasibility. Nothing more.
But...
We've procrastinated long enough, I feel.
Witness, will you now give your formal testimony about a machine that you constructed for the purpose of the demonstration at the Great Exhibition? Understood. Understood. The kinesis machine. I met a young professor approximately 1 year ago through Mr. Assman's introduction. He provided me with the blueprints, and I constructed the machine to his precise specifications. It was no trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double. Tell me, did the victim have a twin? All the spectators saw the birdcage appear above their heads and then crash head first into the crystal tower. A terrible accident, I grant you. Perhaps the science on which the machine was built was flawed somehow. I'm still not sure if that's the perfect voice for him. Because honestly, when I see him, I can't help but think of fucking Vexen from Kingdom Hearts. Mostly because I have a lot of experience with Vexen these days. So I'm trying to give him like kind of a really smug, but also kind of like, I don't know. If I had like a filter or something, or I don't know, if I was more talented, I could make him sound more mechanical. Like, you can't really sound mechanical and smug at the same time, you know? But, I don't know. I'm doing what I can here. A body double? That goes without saying, surely. to give the impression that something has moved, when in reality it hasn't. It's a basic conjuring principle. The deception cannot be achieved without substituting the original with a fake at some point in the performance. But would I be right in saying you haven't managed to establish anything along those lines? I mean, we were kind of hypothesizing about such an idea. But you know, we haven't got anything concrete just yet. Incidentally, the prosecution has already confirmed that Mr. Assman had no twin siblings. It's my understanding that this witness is well versed in conjuring artfulness. But the talents do not indicate that he was actually able to accomplish what he claims. Namely, the construction of what, by all accounts, must have been an extremely complex scientific machine. Whatever do you mean? Yesterday's proceedings brought the true nature of your past exploits to light, Mr. Drebber. Indeed it did, my lord. As a swindler who preys on innocent scientists to elicit government grant money through conjuring know-how. Yes, it's true that I possess considerable knowledge of stage magic. But crucially, my scientific knowledge more than matches that of any academic in the field. Investigations of the witness's workshop attest to that claim, my lord. As evidence, the police found this Royal Society trophy for young talent in science there. Yes, that's true. We spotted it there ourselves. If our hypothesis is sound, it can always be forged into a physical manifestation, with sufficient skill. Though I may have sold the secrets of some deceptive wiles to sniveling, talentless scientists in the past. Would therefore assert that the explosion of the machine was an unfortunate accident, or, of course, a deliberate act of murder carried out by misuse of the science. Counsel for the defense. Your cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. Man, this Enoch, man, he's a tricky fella. But I'm sure we can buckle, find a little crevice to buckle down in and you know, go from there, I guess. So you see, you met a young professor approximately 1 year ago through Mr. Assman's introduction. Okay, tell us a little bit more about that, if you don't mind. So you were already acquainted with Mr. Assman himself? Not really. By chance, I'd seen his name mentioned in the papers. That's all. But I had no interest in his private affairs. If he was an unscrupulous investor, it was no concern of mine. As long as people pay their bills, I take up my tools and construct what they ask for. So why did Mr. Assman approach you in particular, then? Who can say? I presume because my name is associated with excellence in engineering. Not to mention excellence in fraud. Hard to gauge. But the point is, all I did was construct a machine according to the blueprints I was given. In other words, the Kinesis machine was built on solid scientific principles. Yes, you might say that. Professor Harebrained certainly has a mind like no other. I feel like that could be a backhanded compliment, depending on how you mean it. So I do remember him saying that he made the blueprints and that you made the machine, so... Hold it! It's clear that you have both scientific knowledge and knowledge of conjuring magic, however. The more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to handle whatever comes along. But your implication is, that I furnished the machine with some trickery, I think. It's a possibility that we have to explore now. Unfortunately, though, the machine has been blown to Kingdom Come. So there's really nothing left to explore. Is there? Again, you blew it up though! You literally, like, basically confessed yesterday. Come on, man.
It appears that the kinesis machine was fitted with a timed explosive device of some kind.
And there's nothing left of that device either. Not a single shred of evidence remaining, I hear.
He must have planned all this from the outset.
But in any case, it's abundantly clear that the experiment couldn't have been a trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double. Did he have a twin?
Hold it!
No, I don't suppose so. Of course! That's it! Mr. Aspen was a twin!
Objection!
Okay, don't say stupid shit, Inosuke. Come on.
Perhaps my learned friend wasn't listening earlier. Mr. Aspen had no twin siblings.
No, I heard you before. But the thread of hope hadn't quite left me. The demonstration could have been a trick if there was someone who looked sufficiently like the victim. But Dr. Scythe absolutely ruled that out as a possibility.
It is beyond question that the victim himself, Mr. Aspen, did move from the stage to the Crystal Tower. The fingerprints found at the scene attest to that fact.
So it can't have been orchestrated using someone who looked identical to Mr. Aspen, then. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, no, nothing. Just that the idea of someone who looked like identical to the victim is playing on my mind. All the spectators saw the birdcage appear above their heads and then crash headfirst into the Crystal Tower. I mean, yeah, they did see that, but, you know. If it was a trick, then that don't matter, now does it? It crashed headfirst, you say? According to the many witness reports from those there at the time, yes. Were you not there at the exhibition grounds on the day? Were you? Unlikely. I rarely leave my workshop. Yet another of your unique inventions was found at the scene. I mean, yeah, what do you say to that, pal? Well, it was the unveiling of a machine I'd labored over for many months. I saw it clearly with my own eyes. The birdcage plummeting headfirst into the tower. What a surprise. I believe the victim's neck was broken from the headlong fall, wasn't it? How would you have come by that information? Even an infernal recluse like me reads the newspapers, you know. According to the reports, 2 injuries were apparent on the victim's body. Yes, he'd been stabbed in the chest by a screwdriver believed to belong to the defendant, and he had broken vertebrae as a result of the fall from a considerable height.
Correct. My learned friend has been doing his research, it seems.
Do we know which injury was the fatal one?
Sadly not. Forensic science is not yet at a level where such things can be determined. What we do know is that the victim died having sustained both injuries at some point during the experiment. And since he was found in the birdcage with his neck broken,
it's obvious that he fell from a considerable height. I suppose that's hard to deny. A terrible accident, I grant you.
Hold it!
Well, clearly, or there were flaws somewhere along the way. So you understood the science, did you? Not in the slightest. Oh, right. As I've said a number of times, I'm an engineer. My job is to manufacture according to the blueprints I'm given. I would be inviting manifold problems if I foolishly allowed my brain to digest the ideas behind them. I could be accused of stealing those ideas, for example. But how is it possible to construct a machine without really understanding the principles it relies on? So, I thought you said you had considerable scientific knowledge. Which is it, pal? Well, you're practicing law without really understanding the principles it relies on, aren't you? Okay, well, that's a low blow, Mr. Dreamer. And frankly, I feel disrespected, and I don't appreciate it. Also, I studied law for like 50 days or whatever. So I have a basic understanding of things, pal. A very good point. No, don't concede. Pal, you gotta stand up for yourself, Ryunosuke. You studied the badge. You know how it works. Stand up for yourself, Mr. Naruhodo. Yeah, exactly. Don't be a little bitch. The point is, the experiment resulted in instantaneous kinesis taking place. As such, the science must be sound. No, God, man, I can't believe we're back to like square one as to whether or not a guy really teleported or not. Even though fucking Sholmes said it was pretty implausible at best, if not just impossible, you know? Yes, and really, experimental results are all that matters when it comes to proving a hypothesis. He's certainly very sure of himself. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now that the machine has been completely destroyed by yesterday's explosion, it's going to be impossible to argue its authenticity one way or the other. But if we're unable to establish that it was a piece of staged trickery rather than genuine science, we will have no grounds on which to demonstrate Professor Harebrain's innocence. Both Mr. Assman and this man in the stand tricked the professor and used him. They took advantage of his naivety and his unbending belief in his work, and I won't let them get away with it. And seeing as the professor is an old friend of Lord Van Zeek's, what on earth must he be feeling towards Driba? Well, if he's feeling anything, he's not saying it. Since apparently he's still trying to fucking get him convicted of murder, so, you know. Okay, so, I'm still, the answer is not, immediately obvious to me, but it does seem to be implying that, this statement is the trickery one, or is the important one, given how they kind of lingered on it. Because again, I don't think we obviously know he didn't have a twin, but like, you know. How did he move from one place to the other? Also, what do we sell this as evidence when it's just his fucking face? Like, come on. Oh yeah, I forgot we can examine this now. I feel like some of this evidence is not going to be very handy, but what do I know? Bro, we didn't actually check this one out. Killer's autopsy report. He was tried and found guilty by close trial 10 years ago. He was a professor. Death by hanging confirmed at midnight, 17th of June. Courtney Stevens. Well, this is all quite curious. But also, I don't know what I would present exactly. Okay, well, you know what? We can wrap things up for here, right? We've gotten some, you know, we haven't really gotten that far, but hey, we got to talk to Enoch a little bit more, and he's a cool, if somewhat weird guy, so, yeah. Next episode, we will figure out the path forward, and hopefully, you know, figure out whether or not, well, again, I don't think he was actually teleported. Like, it was a trick. Like, we established the possibility quite clearly. you know? So, we just gotta find some other way of working around it, you know? And I'm sure we can do that. But I'll save it for the next episode. Until then, though, I'll see you around.